Finney-Smith. Oh, Caruso's in the passing lane, hit the deck and stolen.
Caruso's everywhere. They foul Caruso.
Ball to Levine, showtime!
Oh, 360.
This could get dicey. Shot clock's at 5.
The Ball brothers have taken the NBA by storm. They've gotten a ton of media attention over the past few years, and much of it is because of how great they've performed on the floor, in particular LaMelo and Lonzo. So today we're going to talk about which of these Ball brothers is the better player and who we'd rather have on our team. The first thing we're going to talk about is their scoring. Which of these guys is the better overall scorer of the basketball? Not facilitating, just pure buckets. Starting off with LaMelo, he's averaging 18.3 points a game across his 126-game playing career in the NBA. Now, during this span, he shot 43.1% from the floor, 37.8% from behind the arc, and 82.6% shooting from the charity stripe. This past season, he was able to average the highest scoring total of his young 2-year career, dropping 20.1 points per game for the Charlotte Hornets. As for his older brother Lonzo, he's played double the number of games that LaMelo has played. Lonzo has suited up for 252 matchups at the time of this video and is essentially lower across the board when it comes to his scoring stats. He averages just 11.9 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, 36.4% from behind the arc, and 57.8% from the free throw line. Now, we should point out that Lonzo has played with far better teammates than Melo has so far in their careers. Lonzo had to share the rock with LeBron in LA, and then moved to the Pelicans and split a lot of it with Zion Williamson, before moving to Chicago and sharing with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Regardless though, Lonzo hasn't been nearly as effective when it comes to getting to his spot and scoring a bucket. His best scoring season as a pro came with the Pelicans a few years ago when he averaged 14.6 points a night. That's still lower than LaMelo's lowest season total. It's pretty safe to say that LaMelo is the better scorer so far. But of course, if we're going to talk about scoring punch, then we also got to talk about passing and leadership. So let's start with Lonzo here, as this is more what he's known for compared to LaMelo. Lonzo averages 6.2 assists per game throughout his entire career, which already shows you how much he prefers to dish it out to his teammates. He also has never had a season in which he's averaged less than 5 assists per game, reaching so high as to dish out 7.2 dimes a night back in his rookie season with the Lakers. This facilitating and passing has helped him grow into a solid leadership role on any offense. He's not the most outspoken player in the world, but his facilitating on offense makes him seem like an established veteran who always knows how to get you open. And that works wonders for a team's success with him on the floor. Now, as for LaMelo, he averages 7 assists over his career, though it's half as many games as Lonzo. The numbers are brutally similar between the two, as Melo averaged 6.1 dimes per game his rookie year and 7.6 in his most recent season, both of which are sandwiched in between Lonzo's assist per game numbers throughout his own career. So when you're trying to determine who the better passer is here, it's probably best to just leave this category up to a draw. The basketball IQ is clearly off the charts for both of these players when it comes to generating successful offense and setting up their teammates. There's just no clear better passer here. Alright, let's talk about a section that's definitely not a toss-up decision, and that's defense. Overall defense, to be exact. The first major number that you gotta take into account for defense is each player's defensive rating. Last year, we saw Lonzo finish the campaign with a 111.0 defensive rating. This was in fact better than the 112.1 rating that LaMelo had during that same season. This was actually the highest of Lonzo's career too. He had a 108.9 with the Lakers back in 2018 and 110.9 with the Pelicans the season after. LaMelo had a 110.3 rating in his rookie campaign, inching this competition a little closer, but not fully taking over Lonzo's spot just yet. We've also got to take into account blocks and steals. Lonzo has never averaged a season in which he's picked up less than 1.4 steals a game. His highest was with the Bulls when he averaged 1.8 steals a night. As for blocks, they aren't the greatest number considering the position he plays. The highest average he's picked up there was 0.9 per game, also with the Bulls. Flipping over to LaMelo, he's slightly worse off in both of these. He's averaged 1.6 steals in both of his seasons in the league, not quite as high as Lonzo's total, though he is consistent enough to be better down the line. As for blocks, he's the taller player but averages just 0.4 a game over the past 2 years. Overall, it kind of appears that Lonzo might be the better and more capable defender, and the eye test shows that too. LaMelo is more of the offensive mastermind, while Lonzo can lock down an opposing team's best player while also dishing it out on the other end. Okay, before we continue any further, let's take a minute to show you all a few fun highlights.
In the league. Here's going and throwing it down. Come on.
He knocks another one, his second. He's into double figures. Outlet feed for DeRozan, and it will put it home.
Oh, man.
Play.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was one, but look at that.
What a throw.
Looked like one you covered yesterday, right?
Well, I mean, at least for...
Oh, fancy dribbling, PJ. LaMelo. How did he do that? Most guys would have had vertigo. Ha ha.
Now Ball goes baseline against Conley. That's a size differential right there. 6'1" against 6'6".
Now, moving on to an aspect of basketball that often gets talked about in regards to two different players, and that would be the clutch gene. When looking at Lonzo and LaMelo Ball, the best way to decide who's the better clutch shooter is putting yourself into the situation of a coach. Say you have both of these guys lined up on your roster and your team is down by 3 points with just a few seconds left. Who are you going to go to? Who's going to have the ball in their hands for that last shot? The answer to that question probably should be LaMelo. He's been the better scorer and more confident shooter since he's entered the league. Yes, Lonzo's jumper has come along a great deal since he left the Lakers, but he's not somebody I would consider a dead-eye shooter when the game's on the line, and he's just not that aggressive as a scorer. If they were on the same team, most coaches are probably going to put the ball in LaMelo's hands instead. Clutchness is usually a category that can be determined by the eye test and personal opinion, so this may vary depending on who's comparing the two of them, but I'd prefer to give LaMelo the edge in clutchness due to that scenario. Alright, finally, we're going to talk about impact, both to their team and players around them. LaMelo completely changed the course for the Charlotte Hornets. He's been the best player on the roster in both of his NBA campaigns coming into this new year. There's not been much question surrounding that either. He's helped the Hornets improve and remain competitive in back-to-back seasons, but he has yet to crack into the playoffs. That's slightly concerning given that he's the main option on this roster. Now as for Lonzo, he's never been considered the best player on the team. In his first few years with the Lakers, his impact was next to none. When he went to the Pelicans, he played a big part in them winning games when he got the minutes necessary to do so. However, he still wasn't the main guy. Now he's on the Bulls and he's clearly an impactful player. Before he got hurt and missed the second half of Chicago's season, the Bulls were 27-13 with him as the starting point guard. They dipped down to 18-23 without him afterwards. So this is a very close comparison as both of these guys are in completely different situations with different impacts on success. Lonzo, he's a guy that you'd want on a team that's built to win a championship, as he brings all the dirty work to a squad at the point guard position that you could want. Meanwhile, LaMelo is a flashy, score-first guard who's recognized as a cornerstone of a franchise. For right now, though, I'm surprisingly gonna roll with Lonzo as the more impactful player. The reason being is that for LaMelo, the Hornets were 10-11 in games without him in his rookie season, and they actually went 4-3 without him the following year. For Lonzo, though, the Lakers were 11-19 without him, the Pelicans were 4-5 without him, and Chicago most recently was 18-23 after looking like deep playoff contenders when they had Lonzo healthy. So at the end of the day, we come down to this big decision on who's the better player, Lonzo or LaMelo. You can certainly tell that they're brothers considering how close this decision is, but I've got to roll with LaMelo as the better player here though. He's a flashier scorer with more athleticism, and he can be the top option on a team that could go deep into the playoffs. He's a far better offensive weapon as well with a tad bit better clutch gene. As for Lonzo, he's definitely better defensively with an ability to take a playoff contending team over the top and put them into championship contention. His stats aren't ever great, but he can improve any team he's on even if he's not able to completely turn them around.